Hildebrand with our Public Affairs Office. I hope everyone has had a safe and healthy holiday season so far. I think it's safe to say 2020 has been a challenging year on a number of different levels, and we're all looking forward to the impending new year coming. One of those challenges for our department has been violent crime. As we look to the new year, we have a lot of technology that we're going to be planning on using for that. 123 homicides currently. We also have shooting into occupied property calls that are up about 47%. So we talk a lot about our officers on the ground, our detectives, and the hard work that they're all doing. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes as well that don't get as much discussion. And we want to talk about one of those entities today, being our crime lab. Our crime lab has a lot of technology that they can use at their disposal to help work these active leads and investigations that we're doing. One of those is the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, also referred to as NIBIN. This program is a ballistic database which is run by the ATF. NIBIN tracks all the ballistics of guns used in crimes from across the country and facilitates and sharing information between different law enforcement groups. Earlier this year, we made an aggressive push to add resources to our crime lab and expand the NIBIN network. The expansion of this program allows our lab to now test all firearms for entry into this database and continue to enter all fire shell casings from these incidents as well. Since the beginning of this year, there's been 575 investigative leads that have been generated through this program. A lot of these leads are from cases involving shooting into occupied property that we talked about earlier. So I'm now going to invite Sergeant Dan Bignell with our Shooting into Occupied Dwelling Task Force to discuss some of these cases and success stories behind the NIBIN program. Sir.
Good morning. I'm Sergeant Bignell, and I'm currently assigned with the Shooting into the Occupied Dwelling Task Force. The NIBIN leads that we get from these different scenes, when crime scene comes out and collects them, is a very important piece of the puzzle that we get to help us do our investigation. Currently with the NIBIN leads, we have made 23 arrests using these NIBIN leads to clear cases, specifically with shooting into occupied properties. A couple of the notable cases that I want to talk about are, we had a series in the city where we were able to connect the shootings to all the same gun, and there was over a dozen shootings throughout the entire city that all related to this same gun. We were able to seize the gun off of a subject, and the lab was able to show that that gun matched up to over a dozen shootings, and we were able to clear those cases and sign warrants on the subject. Now that subject is still in jail, and the city's actually a safer place because of it. Another success story we had is we were investigating a person of interest in a shooting. We were able to do a search warrant, and we seized 4 guns. What we found out after the guns were tested, that these guns were involved in a shootout in our North Division that we didn't even know these guys did. So we were able to use this piece of the puzzle to clear out a shootout where a non-related person's house had gotten shot into, and able to sign warrants on these subjects and clear out a case that we wouldn't have made without the lab.
Anybody have any questions for Sergeant Bignell?
What was that case that you just mentioned that you were able to rule or close the case for the multiple shootings into the property? Can we get the details of being able to look up that case later?
Yes, ma'am, you can.
Who was arrested, the name?
The last name, did you want to set that up?
Well, we didn't get an email later.
Yeah, we'll follow up with that information afterwards.
Okay, do you have the solve rate for shootings into occupied homes of this year, percentage-wise?
I do not. But the hard part about the shooting into the occupied dwellings are a lot of them happen at like 3 in the morning. So we don't have a ton of witnesses, and we don't, because at 3 in the morning people are in bed. So without, the more pieces of the puzzle we can get, the better.
You can talk, Sarge, though, about the enforcement activity that your team has undertaken. You've made a hell of a lot of arrests over the last year, cases involving SIODs.
Yes, sir. So In the last year, my task force, the detectives involved in my task force, working with the division level detectives, we have been able to seize 118 illegal guns off the street, and we've made well over 140 arrests. Now, these arrests aren't necessarily just for shooting into the occupied dwellings. A lot of these arrests are for convicted felons that have guns, shooting inside the city limits, and any number of offenses we can get to assist our division level detectives in helping solve these crimes.
If I'm a community member listening to this, why do I care so much that you all are able to do this? Why is this important?
It's important because if we can link a shooting in, say you're a community, say you live in the Steel Creek Division, and we have some shootings that happen in the North Division, and we can tie these shootings together and link these pieces of the puzzle, well, these shootings don't just happen in one spot. They happen throughout the city. One reason why we started this task force. The hard part is, without this task force, the North Division and the South Division may not, or the Steel Creek Division, may not know all of the information on these cases. So the important thing as a member of the community is to know that we are using all of this technology and all these pieces of the puzzle to make the entire city safe and not just focus on one neighborhood.
Is it common with these investigations where whenever y'all find maybe a firearm that was linked to a shooting into a home, a lot of these suspects have maybe committed other crimes or been a part of other crimes that you are able to kind of help other divisions solve?
Yes, so with the shooting in the occupied dwelling task force, we've solved robberies. We've solved just assault with deadly weapons that weren't shootings into houses. Some of the guns that we've seized have been taken from larceny from autos. So we see that a lot of these subjects that are committing these crimes commit a whole gambit of crimes. So even though we only maybe clear this case through the NIBIN leads for the shooting into the occupied dwelling task force, but if this same subject is going around breaking into cars around Central Division, stealing these guns, we're impacting that crime too.
And you said you guys wanted to add resources and expand what you guys are doing. How is that going to make people safer in 2021?
The more help we can get, especially from the community and through our task force, the clearance rate will go up in these cases, and these subjects that are just pulling the trigger and shooting into homes will make the community safer in 2021 by taking them off the street. A bullet doesn't have a name on it, and when you just randomly shoot guns in the middle of the street and shoot up people's houses, that's our goal, is to stop that from happening.
Thank you, sir. Sure, comment?
So, just to piggyback off what he said, that, we have increased this NIBIN usage in our lab earlier this year, which now allows us to run all guns. And we're seeing that domino effect in shooting in the occupied dwelling cases, but it's having an effect on other cases as well, just not that. Another place we're seeing some of those investigative leads turn and help us is our homicide unit. And at this point, I'm going to invite Lieutenant Crum up here to talk about how that's helped them and also answer any questions you may have on any recent homicide cases. Sir?
I also think it's really important to say that Sergeant Bignell's unit has really been instrumental in us in generating leads in our cases, not just with regard to NIBIN, but the work his detectives do every day. So you ask how that impacts the city. The fact that they're out there every day working on violent crimes, they're able to generate leads that impact cases that are broader than just shooting into occupied property. I think we discussed time and time again, it's a small percentage of folks in our city that are involved in a large quantity of the violent crime, so we see significant overlap in all of our violent crime. So they've really been instrumental in helping us clear some of our cases. I also want to follow on with the NIBIN initiative and discuss what an asset it's been to the homicide unit. We've discussed before that we've utilized that in the Beatty's Ford investigation to tie other crime scenes to that crime scene, but we've also had some really huge successes with that. A few months ago, I discussed some murder investigations involving Stephen Staples. He's charged in 5 murders, if you guys recall, 4 of which were in Charlotte, which includes the Brooks Sandwich Shop and another murder in Hickory. We were able to utilize NIBIN to link up a firearm between several crimes that we believe they're involved with and generate additional leads, which directly resulted in not only the murder weapon being recovered, but us being able to put these bad people in prison or put them in jail. Hopefully prison is the next step. So again, that's another person who is driving a large number of our homicides in Charlotte we were able to take off the street, he along with 2 co-defendants. So you ask how these changes in the lab and these additional resources are helping investigators. Since February, there's really been a push with NIBIN to get that information into the system and then to get that feedback back to investigators, whether that's an investigator in homicide or a division investigator who's working an ADW where someone may not have been seriously injured. So the sooner we can get that information, the sooner we can get some actionable leads to start pursuing those leads and hopefully make arrests. You know, guns move around, so the closer in time we can get that information, that allows us to quickly and follow up and hopefully recover some of these weapons, weapons that may have been taken in larceny from autos or involved in other offenses. Our lab continues to push to improve their processes, so this is just one example. Our DNA section is huge. They're continuously working to be on the cutting edge of technology, and you know, we always talk about information here. Information is critical in what we do, whether it comes from our community members or it comes from our crime lab and our forensics. The unsung hero in a lot of this, we've kind of discussed, you know, the investigators and we discussed the lab. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our crime scene folks. Everybody always asks about, you know, how detectives are holding up in our investigations. Our crime scene folks are at every single one of these scenes, whether it's a low-level misdemeanor ADW or it's a homicide. They work and process every single one of those scenes and collect this evidence. And without them doing a professional job and just an outstanding job of collecting this evidence, we wouldn't be able to capitalize on that information. I mean, they're the experts at the scenes. I can't tell you how many times as a detective that I relied upon them to kind of be the expert in what's the best way to handle this piece of evidence so that we can get the best information we can. Like I said, they're just instrumental in us being able to hold violent people accountable. I can take any questions you guys might have.
What are the future plans to expand the NIBIN program, if there are any, into 2021? It seems like it's been instrumental this year to expand the program. What are the next steps to do?
So I think that the biggest thing is being able to process evidence as fast as possible. So I know that the department's looked at increasing resources, whether it's in more machines to bring the information in, more technicians to be able to process that evidence quickly. But essentially it's just kind of, you know, shortening the time period between when that casing's picked up on a scene and when that casing's entered into the system so we can get that information.
Do you know if this is the most violent year per homicides in Charlotte history? I know we just surpassed 1993, I think it was.
If you're discussing by the actual number, yes, ma'am. I believe the standing number was 1993, was 122 homicides. So as of today, we sit at 123. I think it's important to put that in perspective, though. If you're asking if it's the most violent year, per capita, it's a lot lower. Charlotte was about half the size in 1993 as it is today. So, you know, number-wise, raw numbers, yes, it is the most violent year, but per capita, it's about half.
Do you know what it was, like what happened this year, and is that frustrating for you guys?
Yeah, it's always frustrating. You know, we have 123 community members that we've lost, and my investigators every day are dealing with their families, or talking to their families, the secondary victims. I mean, the impact of a homicide can't be measured in a number. I mean, these are loved ones that are lost to people. So it's really frustrating for us to have to time and time again have these same conversations with family members and try to help them find closure and answers. And it's really senseless. I mean, it's hard to put an explanation on it why someone would pick up a gun to resolve a problem that, you know, to you or me may seem relatively insignificant, and probably is insignificant, but in the heat of the moment, you know, people make impulsive decisions, and unfortunately we're seeing the results of that.
When you look at the 1993 homicide totals, a lot of times people attribute that to a drug epidemic in the city. 2020, could you put a finger on what it is?
You know, I think it's just people's willingness to resort to a firearm over really minor things. It's just that quick, impulsive, short-term decision. You know, we're seeing more younger folks involved in a lot of this violence. I think our numbers have gone up a lot in our under 24 demographic, so we're seeing younger and younger suspects. So it's probably just younger folks, less mature decision making, resulting to, you know, permanent adult decisions, and that's costing a lot of lives.
That was actually my next question. I know earlier this summer it was that 16 to 24 this other half of the year? Is it the same? kind of
Yeah,
thing?
I can't remember the exact percentages, but I think that was marked when I was looking at the numbers. You could see that there really is a shift towards that under 24 demographic as being the primary drivers of at least our homicide crime, but I think that probably stands for all violent crime in general. Where it usually is a little bit older than that, it really seems like it's starting to skew younger and younger.
Do you have the solve rate for homicides in 2020 or a generic percentage?
Right now, we're at about 70%. We finished last year out at just around 78%, and our 5-year average stands 78% or so. So obviously, we have a lot of cases that have recently come in. It takes us a little bit of time to work those through to completion, so I anticipate we'll be in the normal ballpark.
Any update on the babies 4? I know Nibin was key, and in the press conference was a big lead in this case that's
Yes.
been 6 months, and now any updates that you can give us, or are you still pursuing those Nibin leads?
Yeah, so the last time we got out there and talked about it, we put some video out to you folks. We got a tremendous outpouring of information from the community. Our detectives, they're still following up on those leads. I wish I could tell you exactly what was going on, but we have had some really positive forward progress on that. And again, it was that feedback from the community and following up on all those Nibin leads that have really started to paint kind of a clear picture of what went on that night. So hopefully with some good information for you guys in the future. Thank you, guys.
Can I get you to spell your name, sir?
B-R-Y, I'm sorry. It's B-R-Y-A-N, last name is C-R-U-M.
What's your title?
Lieutenant, from the Violent Crime Division.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Our homicide unit has been working hard this year, and obviously 123 homicides, they've been busy. When that phone rings, they're ready to roll and hit the streets, so we appreciate the hard work that they've been doing this year. After our press conference today is concluded, we plan on sending you guys an email and to your boxes, and it will have some video of our Nibin units and how we run that information, and it will also have the complaint numbers that Sergeant Bignell was talking about. Any other questions today?
Can we get the spelling of the sergeant's name?
Yeah,
There's-
Bignell,
yeah.
B-I-G-N-A-L-L.
Thank you.
And first name?
Dan.
Dan.
Thanks.
I know when it comes to shooting in the homes, I don't know if this is an issue in Charlotte. New Year's coming up, do y'all see a rate of gunfire coming out with celebratory gunfire on New Year's, or is that an issue that y'all have here in the city?
Yeah, I think anytime that you have a holiday, that seems to be something mixed in with fireworks. I don't have the exact numbers, but I believe there would probably be an uptick in those incidents. You know, obviously, anytime you have a gun, you know, you fire into the air, it must come down. So that's always a danger, and we encourage people, you know, not to actively do that. So.
Do you hope the curfew helps some of that?
Well, you know, the curfew kind of gets into the executive order of the governor. It's hard to say whether that will have an effect on that. We just encourage everyone to abide by the governor's orders and do what they think is best. Any other questions? All right, at this time, I'd like to invite Rob Stefano up, who has a special introduction.
John, I won't take up my, thank you, Tom, appreciate it, how busy you've been. And I won't take up, hey everyone, get this thing off my face, take up too much time. Before we kind of move on to other pastures into the new year, I'd be remiss if I didn't take, come on up here, if you would, Catherine. Somebody that I want everyone in the room to know, I know that's being streamed on a number of outlets, respective Facebook channels, for the community to know, the woman to the left of me, Catherine Acosta. She is going to be a person that you, the media, you, the community, you're going to see a lot of. Joined our team recently. Comes from Eastway Division. Prior to that, she was in University City Division. Bilingual, 26 years old. Been with the department for 3 years. Born in Ecuador. And Eastway's loss is our gain. Just wanted to put a face to the name. You guys are going to love her. The community is just going to swoon when they really get a good taste and dose of Catherine, who we expect to hit the ground running and has hit the ground running. So we just didn't want to miss the opportunity before we shift gears and move into the new year to introduce our newest family member. And please, I don't want to steal any more of your thunder. Maybe a couple of words for the community.
No, I just wanted to say thank you. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm glad to be part of the team. So thank you, everybody.
Happy New Year, everyone. Follow up with us offline if there's anything that's looming that we need to address. And we appreciate everyone.